So good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Maybe thank you for remembering to start the live stream. In this program, we've been learning and creating a community that is passionate about agribusiness. And our aim in the program broadly has been to create a sustainable businesses and generally do businesses more efficiently. We've been through a number of lessons. Today, we are actually doing the fourth lesson. In lesson one, we learned the foundations of entrepreneurship, where we handled issues to do with mindset of the business. How do you become self-starting? How do you become future-oriented? How do you apply creativity? And how do you ensure that you are creating your own market niches? We've received quite good feedback from those who went through the program and telling us how they are applying the different lessons learned. In lesson two, we had exciting discussions that went around markets and customers. We learned to evaluate products' suitability to satisfy different customer needs and their unmet problems. We also reviewed elements of customer persona, market segmentation, and all that. So we had lots of details that we learned. Lesson three, which we did last week, really brought to us to understand the different types of prototypes, the minimum viable product, and we went to having a conversation about having a product that people can buy, the need to commit resources, and the different fundamental activities that take place within that space. Yesterday, we also had a very good discussion with one of our mentors, Mr. Kamal, who took us through elements of finance, basic understanding of financial measures, and what we need to do as agripreneurs within the small and medium enterprises space. We want to reinforce that lesson. That is lesson 4. So today, our reinforcement is on lesson 4. We want to share lessons. We want to say, how is this lesson 4 applicable to us? Do we see the elements that are in the presentations applying in our business? Do we see the elements that Mr. Kamal Yakub was discussing yesterday? Do we see these elements applying in our work? I am the moderator for the day, Amos Juguna, based in Nairobi. And I will be wanting to facilitate a conversation between us, between those of us who are in this virtual space. So please feel free to contribute. We want a very interactive session. It's your session. I think mine is just to guide, but I want to hear from all of us who are in this space. I want to hear from you how you are applying these lessons, difficulties you are getting, and then have those difficulties. Some of us have already gone through those difficulties. You could be having problems estimating your revenues. You could be having problems doing your profitability, but yet another colleague in this virtual space has already gone through that. And we want them to share their experiences. So please keep it as interactive as you can. Feel free to type your contributions on chat. I will also be calling upon us. I will also be calling upon us to respond to certain issues and share experiences. Remember, colleagues, we do not have a wrong answer. We don't have a right answer. It's about sharing experiences and looking for areas where we can improve our businesses. So I will therefore start posing different questions, and then we will get to there. So today I will start it in a slightly different way. And I will start by asking, we've already gone through, yesterday Fred reminded us to go through the lesson 4, and we still have no problems. If you could still open the lesson 4 and keep checking through what is there, that is still okay. So I want to start in a slightly different way, and I will say, what are your major lessons in lesson 4? What is the major, what's the most important lesson for you? And I'll type the question here. Or what is the one thing you learned most? From lesson 4, at the discussion with Mr. Kamal yesterday, if you attended the presentation. I think let me start there. What's the one thing you learned most from lesson 4 and the discussion with Mr. Kamal yesterday? That is, you can choose not to answer the last part. Thank you. I can see Daniel's hand is up. Daniel, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Yesterday, one thing that I really enjoyed was the cost of customer acquisition, as in all the cost that involves in getting one particular customer and all that. I think it was very insightful, and then the discussions or the explanations he gave, what goes into your marketing and all that branding just to secure a customer, was something I really enjoyed. And then I have that in mind. And then how you go about your profit, as in how you ensure that business, because to ensure your business keeps going or running, you do not incur much expenditures or cost in your production, just to ensure that you either break even or make profits. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Daniel found the issue of cost of customer acquisition to be a very important lesson at ensuring that the business keeps going in terms of revenues, in terms of costs, and in terms of revenues, in terms of costs, and also in terms of the break-even point. Who else want to answer that question? To share with us, please share with us what's the one thing you learned most from lesson 4.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
So this particular chapter has been a bit challenging, but I think all in all, I've enjoyed learning how to exactly put numbers down and cost the products that I sell, so that I can appreciate what goes into producing one item and then how to price based on my costing. I'm still working on it. I don't think 1 week was enough for me to go through this, because I still have a few challenges. I'm still calculating things, but I think eventually it's a challenge I've thrown for myself. I'll get there, but I fully appreciate the costing stroke, comparing against your selling price, and how to use psychology to get more from the customer, because you say, oh, I add a value. Maybe mine is organic, maybe my producing, and maybe I can add that I've added an outgrower network, so more farmers are benefiting from the product they buy from me. Maybe those are some of the things I can add to my pricing and my value proposition to get more. So I'm all in all excited.
Thank you, Priscilla. What did you find challenging? We have colleagues here who could have found it not to be very challenging and would be willing to help you catch up with it.
Okay, so for me, my costing is a bit weird, because for example, when I bring a bag of 1 kg bag of mushroom compost, I buy it today, but I harvest from it for over 2.5 months. So if, for example, if somebody is producing corn and the person can say, okay, I bought the seeds at this price, I did this, and I get to at the end of 3 months. Mine is not like that, because I have to try and divide it over 2.5 months. So when I was trying to do the calculations, I realized that I had to divide my costing over 2.5 months, try and divide my labor over the same. It was a bit weird, but all in all, I think this morning, for example, I had to spend a lot of time trying to do that division very well, because I was getting very off numbers for my cost. And I realized at some point it was too low and I wasn't doing something right. But I think I just got it. And then I'll be able to appreciate. But if anybody does something similar where their costing is not too straightforward and it has to be spread over maybe 2.5 months or something, maybe if anybody could ping me, I would be very glad to reach out and maybe we can do something together.
Thank you very much, Priscilla. We want to hear where it worked for you, the most important lessons, and what areas where you got challenges. I can see someone, Mushroom Queen. Maybe would you please tell us, or I throw it to everyone, but I see, of course, Mushroom Queen. I'm assuming that you also do the same as Priscilla, mushroom business, and whether you have thought about the costing. I would want to hear from all of us, how can we help Priscilla do her better costing? She indicates that from the lesson, it's a bit challenging, which is when you are learning, it's not true that you will learn and absorb everything. So the question then is, who can help describe to her how she can go about her costing? Anyone?
Right. Thank you so much for the opportunity. For me, we are involved in the entire production process. So from the production of the substrate to the compost bags, and then the final product, which is the fresh mushrooms. But I've realized that Priscilla starts from acquiring the compost bags from a mushroom farmer, and then so her costing will start from the acquisition of the compost bags. So that becomes part of the raw materials to her production cycle. So she must treat the compost bags as her raw materials. So when she takes in the raw material, which is the compost bags, now it takes about a week for the mushrooms to start sprouting. And they sprout over time. It's not only once. So that is where the costing starts from. You are going to use water. You have electricity, labor that will help you on the farm in terms of harvesting of the mushrooms. So you have the utilities, you have labor, then the cost of the raw material. So these are going to be your major divisions of your cost: your labor, utilities, raw materials. Now, when you take all these, then your indirect cost, maybe you have gotten an administrator to be receiving people on the farm and all that. So that serves as your indirect cost, or the electricity that spans on the entire floor, production floor, which may not directly be involved in the production of the mushroom. This will now be apportioned accordingly as your indirect cost. So all these, at the end of the day, will become your total cost of production. Now, then the mushrooms start coming. That is where you start recording your revenue. And then we have over time, first flash up to even the fourth to fifth flash. So how do you determine the profitability of one single bag that you have taken? That cannot be accumulated into one flash. You may be making a loss. So over time, it takes about maybe, let's say, 2 months for one single compost bag to fully be utilized. So you must spread and apportion your costs accordingly. It is only in that way that you recognize the actual profit, either you'll be making a loss. Let's say the entire compost bag one will give you 1 kg of mushroom at the end of 8 cycle, which will span about 2 months. And then that 1 kg, let's say it's 30 Ghana cedis. Now, the first flash will only give you about 5 Ghana cedis. So if the first flash will give you only 5 Ghana cedis, you cannot take the entire production cost, which maybe will be like 20 Ghana cedis, and remove it from the 5 Ghana cedis. So you must be able to recognize the entire profit or the entire revenue you get from one compost bag before you can apportion. So you must be able to apportion your costs to the revenue as and when you are determining your profit. That is very critical when it comes to mushroom production, because it's not a one-time revenue that you can recognize. So this is my little submission. I don't know if that would be useful.
No, thank you. Thank you. Has that helped to answer your question, Priscilla?
Yes, it has. I think
Yes,
I'll meet the Mushroom Queen later. We can have a more in-depth conversation.
That's the whole essence of this program. You guys connecting, talking, and sharing good practice, and sharing with us as well for the purpose of improvement. Daniel, your hand has been up for some time. I'll allow you to go. Daniel Yakubu.
Okay, good morning, everyone.
Morning, afternoon.
Good afternoon to our Kenya. So I wanted to address Priscilla's or share my thoughts on Priscilla's challenge. So basically, I've been working, my professional works involve what she is doing or trying to do, that is costing. So my first advice is that she should do what we call COGS of her production, that is cost of goods sold. And I work on similar challenges that she's having, that is trying to cost something that has repetitive outcome or yield. So what we do with aquaculture or insect larvae farming here is that we also experience the same challenge. We use the feed more than once. So now, how do you cost the value of the feed? So how we do it is that we try to estimate the cost of the feed in its raw form and also cost its processing, and then the conversion. So feed, when you process it, it either increases or decreases in volume or weight. So if you're able to cost the processing cost, that is the labor, the machinery, and the electricity cost involved, then you now have the cost of raw materials or raw feed and the cost of processed feed. Then now you know the quantities you use per bag in her case, per mushroom bag in her case. So use that quantities against either you process it, if you process it, against its process cost, or if you don't process it, against its raw form cost. Then based on that, you now look at how much mushroom, in terms of weight or volume, I don't know how you measure it, how much mushroom you can generate from that one bag. So based on that, you can now calculate your cost of one mushroom bag, the feed element cost of it. So if you're able to do that for feed, you now come to labor. Look at how many staff does it take to make one bag, or how many staff in a day or in a month, how many bags can they make? And how much do you pay them per month? Then you divide that number of bags by the amount you pay them. Then that gives you the cost per labor per bag. Then you do that for all the cost centers you have under your mushroom production. So for labor, for materials, for feed, for electricity, for all the cost of production that you have. Then once you sum these individual cost centers together, you now have your unit cost of production. That is how much it costs you to produce 1 kg of mushroom, or how much it costs you to produce 10 kg of mushroom. And with that method, it's very helpful when you are trying to do what we call projections and modeling. So you now know, if I want to produce 100 kg, this is the cost I require, and this is the amount of labor I require. If I need to produce less, or if I have to scale down, this is the number of people I have to let go. This is how I have to reduce the amount of feed and materials I buy. And based on that, you can also use it for your projections of finances to know that 2 months' time, I'll require this amount of money, or more or less. So I think that's my submission. I think can help her.
Thank you very much for that, Daniel. It's really very, very helpful, and also what we've had with regard to this costing. I still want to continue with the same question. What was the one thing you learned most from lesson 4 and the discussion from Mr. Kamal yesterday morning? And I'm also happy, very excited with responses like I had a challenge in this area, so that we also see how to sort out your challenge. Daniel, you can lower your hand, please.
Okay.
Or if you want to go ahead and answer the question, you answered the Priscilla's challenge. So if you want to answer the question, you can still go ahead.
Yes, okay. I would like to answer that.
Please do.
So I learned, or I see that lesson 4 to be, I'll call it my favorite lesson in all this course, because it has given me an overview of how important costing is into the success of my business. I've tried certain things that didn't work out because I didn't do proper costing. And now that I understand what costing involves, and then I was able, because I've already tried it practically, but got it wrong because I didn't factor in certain things. After this lesson, I was able to run through, including what I left out, and I was able to modify it and understand it more. And I realized that if you don't do proper costing, you can't determine whether your business is profitable or not. You start running and then you lose. And from yesterday's lesson with Kamal, what I saw to be very interesting was how he advised about our revenue projections. He advised that we use conservative values, or the worst case scenario. So he was setting an example that if you have a cassava farm that can yield 8 to 15 tons, if you are projecting your output, you don't use the 15 tons, you use the 8 tons, such that if the yield is better, and you calculate that the 8 tons is profitable and the yield is better than 8 tons, the additional yield adds onto your profit. And that was one thing that I picked up very well. Another thing I want to share about the costing or the price determination is that I learned when I was having challenges with I spoke to someone and they gave me an easy formula for pricing a product. And the formula is using 3 variables. That is cost, value, and price. So the rule of thumb is that you should always make sure that your value is higher than the cost of production. So, or your value is higher than the price. So people should value what you are giving or offering them than the price they are paying it for. And that price you've quoted should be higher than the cost of making that service or product. So once you grade them, you see that cost is at the bottom, price is next, and value is on top. So if you're able to make sure that the value or the proposition that you are giving to the customer is seen as more valuable than the money the person is paying for, and you're able to do it at the lowest cost, that is lower than the price you are asking the customer to pay, then all you have to do is proper marketing and then good customer service. Then you always be in business. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Daniel Yakubu, I can say your namesake, Daniel Ador, is saying thank you very much, that your response is very helpful to his business. And I think, again, that's what we want to achieve through this program, where you can respond to your colleague and your colleague gives you a much better insight because we are all doing these same things. Thank you very much for that. So what was the one thing you learned most from lesson 4 and the discussion with Mr. Kamal yesterday? And in this question, feel free to respond to any challenge that you also encountered so that we in this virtual space help you to answer that. So for those of you just joining right now, maybe I could put the same question on chat. I've put the same question on chat so that you can see it. Anyone who wants to go? Talbot? Or Wycliffe, Kavita, tell us, what is it that you learned most from this lesson 4, the discussion, and still, if you went to lesson 4 and you had challenges applying any of the concepts, we are here to help and hear how others have applied that concept to help them. Oh, sorry, Tolbert is following, though in a hospital bed. Tolbert, I'm so sorry, my thoughts are with you at this point in time. Sorry for that. Anyone else? Feel free also to contribute on chat. Let's know. Wycliffe?
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so from Professor Kamal yesterday, I was very encouraged the way he was teaching us, especially coming to know in terms of setting maybe a price for a product. Yeah, I got it very clear that this one will motivate even me as an entrepreneur to know that when I process my product, I have an anticipation that at the end I will sell at this price. Then I will be able to know after I have maybe done away with all deductions, be it revenue and all deduction, at least I will remain with at least this amount that will help me go ahead. Because like for me, I'm doing soybean farming and also poultry. So when I get something, I can also invest in another, maybe in another activity that will also generate will generate towards my income. And maybe if I'll be stuck, maybe I needed to buy like feeds for my birds, and maybe I have run out of cash. So if I have invested in another project or activity like maybe maize, I can sell them and be able to also buy feeds. And also I can maybe take this maize, then take it to a mill. And also with my soybeans, I can select those, when you take your product to the market, it needs to be of high quality. So for me, I was thinking of maybe sieving this soybean so that those that are very small, maybe due to weather challenges, we have those that are premature. And those one, I can take it, mix with maize, and also the waste that comes from, we call it omena, this daga, very small fish. then I can mill it and also make feeds for my birds. So I was very encouraged that when I said that maybe this is the level I'm taking my business, I have that anticipation and I'm able to make all the costs so that when I get into it, I'll never regret. In fact, I'll be motivating even other people that they can also do it and they will manage and also become successful entrepreneurs. So I'm very much excited about this course, though personally I never did business, but with this one, I'm following up, and I thank you professors for taking us through and making connection. Even I'm trying to make connection in the one of mushroom. I was also connecting with the one in Uganda, so I really appreciate. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That is the essence of the program. Connect, talk, grow. Because we are here to learn from one another. But Wycliffe, before you go off, maybe one final question is, I like the way you have articulated and looked at this is the way you want to grow your business, and have you started or are you thinking about doing some of the costing, or you've already done it?
So some of the costing, I did it, but it was not that serious enough. While I was sharing with an agricultural officer in one of the workshops, those were some of the things that we are going through. But I can tell you that for now, it was not that good enough. That costing and everything was not very well set. But with this course, I'm determined and I'll make some correction with the one that I was making, because as I shared earlier on, that with my soya, I only had 25 to 30 kgs, and I sold it, and I at least I noticed that this is a product that is on high demand on the market. So I was thinking that the next year, I'm planning to rent a farm, and with the costing that I had, I'll have to make some adjustment so that when I get into it, I just know that this is how the end will look like. So right now still working on it to make some correction.
Thank you very much for the insightful answer, and that's why we are here. Those in Ghana can always talk to Fred. Those in Kenya can always talk to me, and we will be very happy to interact with you and learn this together.
Yes.
Thank you. My question still remains: what was the one thing you learned most from lesson 4 and the discussion with Mr. Kamal yesterday? And I'm also happy to learn of the challenges that you went through as you did your lesson 4, so that colleagues in the room can contribute to your solution. So anybody can go. You just need to raise your hand and allow you the opportunity to share with us the one thing you learned most from that lesson 4 and the discussion with Mr. Kamal yesterday. Who wants to go? Wycliffe, you can mute now.
Thank you.
Anyone who wants to go? Let's see. Kerry or Kerry, you want to go? Or Isaiah? What is the one thing you learned most from lesson 4 and the discussion with Mr. Kamal yesterday? And I have said, if you got any challenges, this is the time, so that colleagues in the room can help you have a discussion on how to deal with that challenge from lesson 4. Okay, thank you. Daniel Ado, I see your hand is up. Please go on.
Okay, so Prof, I just wanted to come back again. So one other thing I learned most and then I found very interesting was pricing based on psychology. I think it's something that never came to mind, but with the example that he created, that for instance, here in Ghana, there are some water producing companies that has a policy that if you buy a bottle of water, a percentage of the amount goes into these orphanages and stuff. I think with that indication and the education they gave on that, I really thought of it, and then I had the idea that why not start do a serious branding and something, and probably move out of my immediate environment where I mostly sell my produce to the local markets and then shops around. So, for instance, if I could enhance on my branding and then focus on or try to target some supermarket and stuff, and then I am in a team with some individuals who we have an NGO, something sort of who probably I can also inculcate that form of pricing into it and indicates on the branding that probably a percentage of a box of any if you buy a box of pawpaw or potato, a percentage of it goes into supporting that NGO to help people in the need. I think it was very insightful, and then I'm still working around to see how I can better work on that, hopefully next year. Thank you.
That's insightful about psychology and the issues of pricing. And I agree that pricing is really an important decision for all of us. And what came out of the lesson is about pricing so that you have this value proposition. And maybe I would also be happy to hear anything else that contributes to that pricing, value proposition, connection with customers. I know Daniel Arieron talked about the cost of customer acquisition as one of the things that struck him most. So I'm still open. Yes, Isaiah, please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning and afternoon to all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great day today too. And yesterday, Mr. Kamal did a great job. I really liked what he taught us. But I also see another aspect of what he brought on board yesterday. Most often for beginners like us, like people trying to start a business or company, we are much involved in the work we do. For instance, me starting a pineapple production, always I have to be actively involved in everything that we are doing on the farm. So in such cases, we may tend to forget about records keeping. At the end of the day, you may be tired, or you can work from morning till evening, and so you will forget about records keeping. But all that Mr. Kamal talked about yesterday, if we are unable to keep records and keep them well, it means we can't even get to that point. Yes, so I just want to stress on that and also advise all of us, even though we are beginners and sometimes we are so tight to even keep records, we should try as much as possible to keep good records so that when it comes to knowing the cost of production and translating them into profits, it becomes much easier. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, re-emphasizing on record keeping, because your costings, your revenue analysis, your cost of customer acquisition will only be as good as the records you have kept. Isaiah, any specific challenges any specific challenges in application of lesson 4 that you would want us to brainstorm here as a group?
Yeah, Prof, you mean anything that I've come across?
Yes, within lesson 4 that you could be struggling to see how to apply in practice so that we get responses from other colleagues as well.
Okay. So one key thing is about, I do sell pineapple fruits and at a point the suckers for planting. But it gets to a point that we may have suckers in abundance. And considering the terrain that you are in and the farmers that you work with, and also customers that you sell your fruit to in other regions. So let's say if I'm doing my farm in the eastern region, but my customers are in, let's say, central region, but they need suckers to use. In the same way, I have farmers who are much closer to me that I can also sell these suckers to. Just for relationship sake, because they are my customers. Those in the central region are my customers. And those who are farmers in my immediate region also need the suckers. It becomes a case as to whether I should send the suckers to those who are my customers for use, or I should give it to those who are in my immediate surrounding. Because if I'm to take it to those far away, it means the costing and pricing and everything will change, which will either make it more expensive. But rather, if I'm to sell to those very close to me, then probably even if I add $1 to whatever I'm selling, it doesn't look so big. So it becomes a problem in the pricing for those close to me and those far away who are my customers in my everyday dealings. Yeah, so that's one of the issues I normally face with regards to the selling of suckers. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone who can contribute to his issue, Isaiah's issue? You have these customers far away, those who are a bit closer to you, and what that means when you start doing your cost and revenue analysis. Or anyone with the experience of a similar problem, maybe even in a different value chain. Kerry, okay, go ahead. Who is it?
I think I can share an example.
Please
but
do.
I don't think I have that problem as much as he might have. Sometimes we get calls from people who are outside of our region to supply them with products. But most of the times it's not a constant or everyday thing. Hello. So maybe if you see them as a big source of business, you can add a little bit of transport cost or whatever it is to how much you sell the product to them. And then over time, you could develop that market. They could refer you to other people in their area, and that there are opportunities to explore maybe in that area. I don't think it should be a blockade or a stumbling block to you if the people who are ordering for your products are outside of your comfort or the geographical area in which you are. I think you should explore it. Just add a little bit of transportation on top and see how far that goes.
Thank you, Priscilla, for that very useful contribution about marking up depending on the marketing costs and the transport costs, which must be catered for by the customer. Daniel, you had this up. Please respond to him.
Yeah, so we haven't faced such a challenge before, but I think it's no problem when your customers are in a different region, and then once they're ready and willing to pay for that price or to get the value of whatever you are giving to them. I don't think it's a challenge. So for me, I would say that once your customers, because they are your loyal customers, and then when you get them in abundance, they are able to request and then buy them. So if you can deliver to them every now and then, despite the distance, I think that shouldn't be a problem, because remember, those that may be closer to you, probably a time might come where you might have it in abundance and they may not be willing to buy, but then you might have stopped doing business with your loyal customers which are far away. So I think they shouldn't be a problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that response. We are still on the question on one of the most, one thing you learned most from lesson 4 and the discussion with Mr. Kamal yesterday, and how you feel you are applying it or how you are applying it, and also if you have any challenge with anything in lesson 4, we share lessons from colleagues. Isaiah, go ahead.
Yeah, Prof. So with regards to what I just said and what my colleagues are adding up, I just want to ask this too, that for the fruits I saw, I normally take some to the processing companies. And I also have some team who come around from other major cities to buy. Those who come from the cities to buy on farm, buy it at a higher price. But if you take it to the companies, it will go through a whole lot of scrutiny. And what you will get in the end, if you compare, it's like you are getting less from the processing companies. But the processing companies would be taking your produce almost every time. Doesn't mean that they are your loyal customers. So you should ignore those coming from the cities to buy on farm when you have fruits, and should be taking everything to their processing companies. Thank you.
Very good question there. So who can help us get thoughts around that?
I have another submission to make in
Please
relation
do.
to what you're saying. Okay, so I also have the same scenario you have. So at our farm, we have people who would come and buy in bulk, like once or twice a week. But we realized that the individual customers pay more than those who would buy in bulk, like you are saying, for your processing company. So we could factor a ratio where what we produce, once it is still giving us a profit, we give, let's say, 75% of our produce to the processing company because they are a constant buyer. And then we earmark maybe 25%, and the 25% will give us more revenue per what we are selling to them. So a combination of both, maybe you would have to increase your production a little bit, Isaiah, so that you can also factor in the individual customers, because ideally they also give us a lot of money. And then over time, you cut out the middleman. If possible, you can forward integrate. Why not? If your individual customers want juice and you can make yours organic and add a psychological, whatever, why not? You can move forward. But you can, I think we should factor both, because they are both revenue streams and you need it. If your people who buy in bulk one day decide not to buy from you, what are you doing? But if you introduce yourself to both sides of the market, at least you can get money, you can diversify your customers and make money from those two segments at least.
Thank you very much for that response. I think I would resonate with it. Daniel, go ahead.
So I also want to add something to his question, Isaiah's question, but I have similar experience, but I'm the other end of it. That is, I'm the one always giving or offering the prices. And I want to explain to him how those big companies think. That's why they do that way. So mine is with cassava farmers. We buy cassava for some production activities at my end. What we do is that we buy them in bulk. So the ability to transport it once in large quantities and get a one-time value, which is constant and reliable, is something businesses value. So he should be able to understand that anyone who is able to buy all his products at a go saves him time and risk of spoilage. So compared to someone who is buying in small quantities. So assuming he sent 1 ton of fruits to a processing plant and then selling that 1 ton of fruits to market women, he has to wait and negotiate and talk to about 10 small scale or market women before he will be able to sell that 1 ton. But the company is willing to just take it at a go. But the price they will offer him will be lower than what he'll be getting from the market women. And we do that because we are like saving you the time and resources, which he should quantify to be able to see that it's also money. Because if you take 3 days to sell fruit, some of them will go bad. But if someone is buying all at a go, he's saving you some of those losses. So he has to understand the risk involved in waiting or selling it over a longer period compared to just giving it to an off-taker like the fruit processing companies. The one that makes him more profit, then he goes with that method. But what he's getting, or the reduction in value he's getting from the fruit processing companies, is just a way of deducting the risk that he would have incurred if he was trying to sell it to market women. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Isaiah, I hope you do have your answer now. Yes, Isaiah, go ahead, Isaiah. You had this up.
Yeah, thanks, Prof. And thanks, Daniel. But funny enough, the processing companies give you an order and time to supply. And those who come around from other cities, mostly from Kumasi in Ghana, it's like the same size of truck they come with to buy the fruit. It's the same size of truck you take to the processing factories. So it's not like this one is buying in bits and the other is buying in bulk. They are actually buying the same quantity of fruits at the same time. Just that those coming from other cities wouldn't buy it every day. Like you have fruit today and they will come and buy it tomorrow, they will come and buy it. But for the processing factories, once you get them informed, then they will put you on their list for you to supply. Thank you. But I'm okay with all your submissions. It's very helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. We said that there is no correct or wrong answer because it's about sharing experiences, exchanging ideas, and where possible, of course, getting ways of improving our businesses and sharing colleagues from Ghana, sharing with colleagues from Kenya, across board, because all of us have something to learn every day. I still go back to my question on what we learned, what we are applying, and if we have any challenges and questions. Remember, we learned about how to sustain profits. There are issues about costing. I'm sure that, and I'm so happy that those issues have come out very well. There are issues about analyzing revenues, costs. I haven't heard about depreciation that also Kamar talked about yesterday. Matters of pricing, which have also come out articulately today. Matters about the cost of customer acquisition. And I would also want to hear someone, if you learned about the total addressable market. We were saying, assume you've got the whole of this market and you are saying you can sell corn to everyone, and how does that translate into our businesses today? So I want to hear, what is that thing out of all these things, the one that struck you most, how you are applying it, and in no specific order, how you are applying it, and if you have any challenges, I'm also happy to hear of the challenges so that colleagues can contribute to the solution. Over to you, colleagues, and I could pick, I can see Kerry, I don't know if you are still there, Kertich, Isaiah has done us justice with his part. Anyone joining, listening, this is your space. Uria. It's your space and time. What came out of lesson 4, very exciting. Financial aspects of a business are very, very critical, right from connecting your activities to finances, the whole of that chain, costing, And as we do that, I would be happy to hear of anyone who is applying depreciation. How did you apply it, and how are you applying it from lesson 4, the way it was explained, and also the way Mr. Kamal explained it yesterday?
Prof, please, I want to ask about cost of customer acquisition.
Go ahead.
Going through the material, I saw an example where they worked out the cost of customer acquisition, but below it, they stated that the cost of customer acquisition, the revenue generated per customer should be at least 3 times the cost of customer acquisition. So I wanted to know, is this a general rule or is just applicable to the example that was set there?
Very good question. Colleagues, we must have seen the same. It's, I think, slide number 16 or 17 there. You must have seen that also. What came out of it, and what do you think? The cost of customer acquisition is given, they say this, and then they say, okay, what should the revenue be? And his question is that a general rule, or it's something that anyone can change at will? Anyone? A raised hand will be good, or simply unmute and talk. We are not many.
I think it should be a general rule, because like in Isaiah's example, and when Daniel gave us his submission, he said if he had to go to the market woman to talk to each person and it took 3 days to sell your fruit, maybe by the time you came back it's spoiled or damaged. So considering it, if you have to sell to one person and you have to sell to 100 people, then it means that you have to look at all of those costs. And for each person who buys, how much will you sell to them, such that you are covering the sales and marketing, as against you producing and one person of taking all your products. So it should be a general rule. You should make more money in adding the sales and marketing as a cost factor, so that you are not making losses by trying to get more customers, as opposed to working with one customer.
Okay, thank you, Priscilla. Anyone with the same view or different view? I would be happy even if you contribute on chat and say, I agree with Priscilla, or I disagree with Priscilla. Possibly, the number could be determined by other factors.
Hello.
Go ahead. We can't hear
Hello?
you. Yes,
Yeah.
go ahead. I can hear you now.
Yes, I think I agree with Priscilla, but a key thing here for us to look at, it's very important you do target marketing to know exactly your customers and the product you're selling, because the rule can work very well for a particular industry, but may not be ideal for another industry. Looking at consumer goods, which are of very little value, when you have to spread your customers or go to a lot of customers, that will mean that your distribution costs will have to increase abysmally as compared to the revenue you'll be getting from these people, because it's of a little value. But while you are into heavy equipment delivery and all that, just a delivery to one particular client will cater for the profits that you'll be making on a whole lot of customers. So yes, the rule is there, but you have to define your market, your target. That is why it's very important. And also the industry you find yourself is very, very important. For instance, I am into mushroom. So I try to segment my clients, because if I am in Accra and one person calls me from Tamale, which is the northern part of the country, for a kilo of mushroom, delivering to that particular client, I will make a loss. If I say free delivery across the country, and somebody capitalize on that and say, okay, I am in Bolga, which is also far than even Tamale in the northern region, would that make, I will make a loss. But if I am into equipment and I have to deliver there and I'm making thousands of profit on that, I wouldn't mind doing that. So I think that is what I have to let the forum know about.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we have the response that it's a general rule, and it's good to keep it at that, regardless of the scale. Thank you for the response. So maybe we can take two more on most important lessons, the most important things learned from lesson 4, the discussion with Mr. Kamal yesterday, and also whatever challenge that anyone would want us to support. Please mute yourself. So I would be happy to hear with the colleagues who haven't spoken today. Kerry, Uria, I would be happy. Or indeed anyone else who could have thought about something else that, oh, this looks good. Who wants to go? So there are important things that came out, of the lessons, right from the beginning, connecting the activities to finances, issues of costing, issues of depreciation, issues of pricing that we have been able to tackle. And I think the only issue that I haven't had any contribution is on the issue of the total addressable market. Anyone who is applying the concept or is thinking of applying the concept, I would be happy. That's the only issue that has not come out yet. Mm-hmm. And I know that Kamal really dealt with it. He gave a bit of discussion about it and saying that we should learn to focus on the market because the total addressable market is so huge, but then how do you cascade it down to the specific market, to the specific targets that you need to? Yeah. So in the meantime, my friend, the colleague Fred, if you have anything to say, I could as well pause and you say.
Good morning, everybody on here.
Morning and afternoon for some of us.
Yeah, I think it's been a very insightful lesson, starting from yesterday with a presentation from Kamal, and I'm so much intrigued how most of us have started to apply this. It looks like the others who are ahead of most of us with regards to, especially, I took some notes here, stuff around costing. So it's looking like some of us would need some extra support in this area, and reason why we are building a community. So again, if I single out Daniel Yakubu, for instance, he says it's something he's been doing for a while. So those of us needing a lot more help, I'll be happy to put you together, bring Daniel on board and see how we can all work together. So again, we want to look at everybody's strength and how we can contribute to each other. Prof, what are your thoughts around this?
Yeah, that's very important. I think that's why we exist, to be able to provide support to our agripreneurs, connecting everyone to one another, understanding what we do, and then contributing meaningfully to that. Because in summary, we've learned that financing mechanisms and the lesson on financing is extremely important. Right from what Kamal indicated and what we've heard today, how to do your costing, how to ensure that you have calculated your profits. We heard about that from, is it Daniel, who was talking about determining the profits at the different levels and determining the break-even point as the total investment. Kerry, please mute. Kerry Oliechu, can you please mute your mic? Or Fred, please mute Kerry. Yeah, so how to determine that, how you determine that break-even point and its meaning and implications. We also went ahead and talked about now how you get to the total addressable market, which you can only meaningfully address, and concluding with the cost of customer acquisition. So I think in terms of the lesson bites, we are good. I feel that we have covered sufficient ground today, and we can continue contributing to this discussion by supporting our agripreneurs in the back end. So maybe Fred, you can then conclude by talking about the deadlines for the workbook and the steps for the next week before we allow them to leave for today.
All right, thank you. Before I announce the deadline, I want to hear from my colleagues here. I mean, Daniel, Uriah, Isaiah, Ketich, Wycliffe. Have we all started working on the workbook? And can you give me a bit of information on how this is going, what is working and what's not working, just so that we can provide support whilst you are working on this. So I've opened the floor on the workbook. What's working, what's not working, where are we?
Hello?
Yeah, Uriah, please go on.
Yes, I compared the workbook to what we have online, and I realized I prefer the one we have online because the workbook is limited. While I go through the ones we have online, the questions by question and answering them, I also learned through that. So I compared the workbook to the one I had online. I prefer the one I had online. So I'm doing the questions and answers based on the one I have online and answering them and posting them. Because through that, I get to think through and compare it with what I'm actually doing. So as it stands now, I'm following the online questions and posting my answers as such.
Wow, that's refreshing to hear. Yeah. Anyone else on the workbook and all of us working to meet a certain deadline I'm going to announce?
Hello, Frederick.
Yeah, Ketich.
I've been working on the online, and there is a part whereby it requires that you post the Word document. So I've tried to post my Word document to the platform, but it is not going through. Kindly assist on that.
Yeah, maybe Kertich, we agreed you email to me, and for some reason I can't see it in my email.
I sent an email yesterday, Prof,
Yes.
Kindly check. I sent the email yesterday. Kindly check if you've received the email.
Actually, I'm even checking right now and it's still not there. I don't know. Or maybe I also check in my junk. I don't know what's happening. Maybe I will text you another email. Maybe let me text you on my Gmail. Maybe it will come. Over to you, Fred.
All right. So, Curtis, just make it a point to email it again. Who else? All right. So the deadline.
Hello.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Fred.
Yeah.
I would like to ask that are we doing the online assignment together with the workbook, or we are just doing the workbook? And then so far, I started the workbook this dawn, and so far so good. I've not come across any challenges yet. I feel that one is okay.
Right. Okay. So I'll take it, and then if Mo has any extra contribution to what I'm about to say, he will do. So the workbook is going to be our final assessment document. You know, we've said that we're going to give a certificate of participation after the course. And again, we're also going to pick out some individuals to continue to provide some support post this phase of the training. So you're supposed to send in the final assessment documents whilst you're working on the online stuff as well. Mo, is there anything you want to add?
No, Fred, that's in order.
Right, okay. Thank you. So the deadline for submission is the 17th of December, which is next week, Friday, by close of business. So we should receive it we should receive it by 12 midnight. So next week, by the time we are meeting today, we should have received all the assignments. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Fred, by email or?
By email. I'm going to share my email on the platform.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So kindly submit all the assignments to my email. I mean, Prof will also share his.
Yes,
so
we can send it
to both of us. Send it to both emails. Thank you very much.
I've just typed on chat so that people can just pick it directly.
Right.
So can Teach please use the Gmail, because you just said to my Gmail and I will respond. Okay, Priscilla, your hand is up.
Okay. For those of us who are doing it in the Google workbooks, can we share the link? Can we share the documents with the emails you just shared?
That's perfect. Just share the link. For us, the most important thing is to get the work. So if it's on a Google Doc, we are happy. If it's on a Word document, we are happy. We don't want that to be the problem. We want you to take more time answering the questions than dealing with the problems of submission. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So I think, thank you very much. Those are the updates we had today, and thank you for showing up, and we've had very exciting discussions. We are on time, so possibly please take Fred's email. I've also shared mine, and I think now we are free to leave at own pleasure. Typically today's session is up, and thank you. And let us give it a spirited finish. We only have about a week now. So let's give it a spirited finish by going through the materials attending the scheduled sessions for mentorship, attending the scheduled sessions for mentorship, and also attending the session on Saturdays. So all the best. Feel free to leave at this point.
All right, Prof, before they leave, would you want to make an announcement for next week? What are we doing? What are we working on? What are the sessions?
Yes, we do have a mentorship session on Friday, and the wrap-up session on Saturday, which the wrap-up session, notice that at that point in time, we will have received the workbooks. So yeah, that's what will be happening Friday and Saturday.
And to add to it, the mentor session on Friday is looking at legal stuff around your businesses. So we have a representative from Ghana, a lawyer from Ghana, and then another legal person from Kenya, just so they address issues in both countries.
And it will be very exciting discussion around that. So feel free to attend, ask any questions, and yeah.
Yes. So again, for those of you wanting to register your businesses, those of you wanting to sign NDAs and contracts, the mentor session on Friday would look at that. It's going to provide all the necessary information you need to address some of the issues around that. Thank you. Mo, is there anything you want to add?
No, nothing from my side. Looking forward to the last week, and I hope everyone here is able to submit their work on time. And next week, make use of the resources that you have. I mean, Prof and Frederick, they are great resources that everyone has now, and make use of them. And now you have their attention and their time, which might not be the case later. So reach out if you want feedback on your workbook before you submit it. If you have any questions, any doubts, reach out during the week next week to myself or any of your mentors. Looking forward to receiving your submission.
Right. Thank you, Mo. So next week, what we're also doing is we're going to have a one-on-one session. So what we'll do is we're going to put on the platform, times will be available. So you can dial in or join via Zoom to have some conversations with myself, with Mo, and the members of the team. So those of you with issues you want to address one-on-one, we are available for that next week.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
So enjoy your afternoon. You are free to leave at this point in time.
Thank you.
All right.
You may stop the live.
Yeah, I'm going to do that.